Texas is on thin ice. Georgia is just fine. It's college football smothered and covered.
You are Locked On College Football, smothered and covered, with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets guaranteed as long as your $5 bet hits. That's right. $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet hits. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we are getting started today with the college football playoff rankings. But later on, we'll talk about a Tennessee quarterback in Nico Iamaleava that could be sitting out this weekend. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But college football playoff rankings have been released, and there you see it from our friends at On3. For those watching, you can see it, but for those listening on audio, we'll run it down real quick. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, your top five. BYU, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Boise State, SMU, Texas A&M, Kansas State at 16, Colorado at 17, Washington State, Louisville, Clemson rounding out the top 20, and then South Carolina, LSU, Missouri, Army, and Tulane rounding out the top five. Okay, so I've got a few takes on this. And I think the first one that's very important is you look at these, and I think it might get glossed over. Excuse me, but Texas number 3, they are on thin ice. Their best win is over Vanderbilt. Now, look, we can sit here and talk, it's Vandy. It's the Cinderella story of the year. Is it? I mean, really, they beat Auburn. Sure, they beat Alabama. That was a big one, but they lost to South Carolina. Vandy, to me, is sort of like Geno Smith at West Virginia way back when everybody gave Geno the September Heisman. If that's Texas's best win, they are in big-time trouble in terms of getting a bye. If Tennessee beats Georgia, Tennessee's getting that number 3 spot. There's no doubt about it. They're going to get that bye. They're going to be above Texas. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Tennessee is a better football team than Texas, I believe, because they've overcome some of their flaws. Still don't know where Texas is in terms of the offensive line against good teams. It is not as cut and dry as Texas is going to remain there if they win. In fact, I think Tennessee might be the best team. The team, I should say, that has the best shot at overtaking Texas. Now, look, if you saw my power rankings earlier in the week, you did see that I did have Texas number 1. But that's because I think that right now, the resume is not warranted of dropping them down. But Texas is definitely on thin ice. Ohio State is getting absolutely screwed in this because, look, you see Ohio State, number 2. That's great. Ohio State, well, that's wonderful. Yeah, except the projected bracket has Ohio State at number 5. This is what I warned you about. I warned you from the get-go that this system is flawed. And we'll talk about the back end and how it's flawed on the back end as well. But Ohio State's number 2 in the country, and they're number 5 in the bracket. That shows exactly why automatic bids are ridiculous. Not all conferences are built the same. Not all conferences are built the same. Ohio State was 1 second away from at least getting a shot to beat Oregon in Autzen Stadium. Had Will Howard slid a second earlier, they could have won. And you're talking about that 1 second, one tiny little second could prevent Ohio State from getting a first-round bye. That's how ridiculous this system is. The playoff rankings, I think when you look at this and you've got 4 teams out of the Big Ten in your top 5 spots, that tells you how deep and how powerful the conference is. Because it is. It's deep. It's powerful. It's the best conference in college football right this very second. Not all conferences are created equal. You telling me Miami at number 9 deserves to get into the college football playoff and get a bye? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But this isn't what's inherently wrong with this system. And I've said it consistently. Automatic bids are irresponsible. They're irresponsible. Does anybody really think Miami deserves a bye? No. Does anybody really think that BYU deserves a bye? No. Although I am a believer that BYU can actually do some damage, they're not worthy of a bye. They're not better than any of those 5 teams, and yet you still see them in that spot. What do we do? How do we fix it? Now, I do think, and they mentioned this on the broadcast, that BYU jumping up from 9 to 6 is a little bit of a course correction. I agree. But you can't fix this. All the money is involved. All the conferences involved. They agreed to this system. But if you wanted it, you got it, but you got a dumbed down version of it. You got a very flawed version of it. And so let's take a look at the playoff bracket. Thank you to On3. Notice a team that's not there. It's Georgia. Georgia's not there. Boise State is. Georgia's ranked number 12. Boise State's there, though. Georgia fans, you're fine. I know, and look, I live in the state. There was an immediate sense of anger when that was released. Take a deep breath. Like Aaron Rodgers said, RELAX, relax. Is Georgia one of the top 12 teams in the country? Yeah. Are they extremely flawed? Yeah, absolutely. And it's been like that all season. They've worked around that for the most part, even in that win over Texas. But they're a very flawed football team, and I don't think they can overcome it. With that said, they're a top 12 team. They should be. But win this weekend, it won't matter. Win this weekend, it won't matter. If you win this weekend, you're in, Georgia. Win out, doesn't matter. A win over Tennessee, and as long as you don't stumble the last 2 weeks, you'll be fine. And in fact, I think Georgia might be better off where they are right now, because you don't really want to play the SEC championship game if you're on the back end of some of these conferences that have 3 or 4 or 5 teams in it, right? If you're Georgia, you kind of don't want to go to Atlanta, because even though I don't think they're going to punish teams for losing conference championship games. They shouldn't, but we've never done this before. And they make up rules as they go along. I know there are protocols on their website. They don't mean anything. They don't mean anything. We saw them leave out a Georgia team that was undefeated, that lost the SEC championship game last year. Every season has different dynamics, different landscapes. So Georgia, win this weekend. Don't do anything stupid. They're in. Even though in this, you don't see the name Georgia in the projected college football playoff bracket, which is so weird. Which is just so weird. All right, on this graphic, the projected playoff bracket, you don't see the Colorado Buffaloes. You don't see them. Why is that? Well, they're number 17. BYU's undefeated. I get it. Colorado controlling its destiny to get to the playoff is absolutely wild. Not in a million years did I think we'd be sitting here talking about Colorado potentially going to the college football playoff. And yet here we are. Do they have a signature win? Not really. Could they get one? Yeah. Win out and you're in the Big 12 championship game. You beat a BYU team that they clearly respect and you're in. But here's the thing. Could they still get in with a loss to BYU? That is going to be the true test. SEC teams and Big Ten teams are going to get respect. And I truly believe if you get to the championship game and lose, you will not be punished. However, is it the same with the ACC and Big 12? I'm starting to think no. It should be the case. I'm starting to think if, let's just say it's Colorado, 2-loss Colorado team, doesn't really have a signature win. goes and loses to BYU, even if it's close in the Big 12 championship game, you really going to put them in? I'd like to think that brand wouldn't matter. We know brand matters. Of course, brand matters. That's the team to watch out for. If you're Colorado, if you're a fan, look at how they approach Colorado. And I'm not talking about the press conference after, or the teleconference, I should say, tonight. It's probably going on right now. They don't give anything useful in those press conferences, teleconferences. Nothing. My colleague Trey Wallace at Outkick is listening and asking questions. I'm sure he'll ask great questions. They're not going to answer. But I'm interested to see what they do with Colorado if Colorado keeps winning, because they know subconsciously that Deion is a draw, and they're going to have to start slowly but surely moving him up to sell the idea that a Big 12 championship game loss is still okay. Watch that, because it could be a big, big deal moving forward. We'll take a break. When we come back, a bold prediction for the next couple of weeks of the college football playoff rankings. And trust me, there's a big one. Today's show brought to you by Roy. Hey, college football fans, listen up. You need to download the Roy app. You have heard about us talk about Roy all season long, and you know how they are revolutionizing the NIL industry. Roy allows you, the fan, to get a say in who gets NIL money. And here's what I absolutely love about this. You get your money back guarantee. So if you send money to a player and he transfers, or he doesn't provide the information or the content that you want, you get it back. No worry. Roy is helping us keep the team intact, and it's actually good for the game long term. Look, Jalen Milroe, man. I was down and out on Alabama. Jalen Milroe took over that LSU game, and he is my player of the week for Roy. So I'll be depositing a little appreciation into that player's account. To do that, just download the Roy app. You can see where the logo looks like, and you're watching on YouTube. You can join at roy.com. Now, let's look at what he did. Rushing touchdowns all over the place. If it's not for Jalen Milroe, does Alabama win that game? I don't know. Probably not, because now they know the offense is built around Milroe. Yet again, we're going to throw some money into his account on Roy. Every contribution counts. 10, 20 bucks, it all adds up, and you're going to help your favorite players stay put. Join me and show Jalen some love. Download the Roy app and join roy.com today. Use promo code LOCKEDON. Every athlete from every team is there. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Go to joinroy.com for full terms. Roy, support the players. Change the game. All right, bold prediction. Bold college football playoff prediction. I want you all to look at this graphic. If you're listening, you've already seen the playoff or the rankings. You know what this is, right? I want you to look. Let's pretend this is a bingo card. Look in the middle, but look right below what we would normally call the free space, and that is at number 18, and that is the Washington State Cougars. We sit here and we talk about automatic qualifiers and know the Pac-2 does not have one of those spots. It does not have an automatic qualifier spot. It would have to be in as an at-large. They're going to get in. They're going to go undefeated at New Mexico, at Oregon State, and at home against Wyoming to close the season out. A one-loss Washington State team, I think, has a good chance at making the playoff. They're not going to get one of those 4 automatic bids. And quite honestly, I don't know if they would jump Boise State if Boise State wins out. My guess would be no. Actually, it wouldn't be a guess. It would be pretty much a certainty. But what if carnage ensues around them? What if you're sitting here looking at this graphic and Georgia loses again? Miami loses again. Alabama loses to Auburn or something. Ole Miss, I think, is going to win out. Notre Dame could lose to USC. There's a lot that could happen for a team in Washington State that has no strength of schedule that could just slowly move up. Keep an eye on them because we're sitting here talking about all these teams and how strong they are. But on the outside looking in, you see a Washington State team that right now is 5 spots behind the last team out, and that's Georgia at number 12. Boise State's in at 13. Georgia's number 12. Washington State is not far behind at number 18. I'm telling you guys, those Cougars, those Cougs, they might be in this more than you think. We'll take a break. We will talk about Tennessee's quarterback situation, and there is a situation. We'll talk about it next. It's college football smothered and covered. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed as long as you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can see stats, play-by-play, all that stuff's right there in the exact place that you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today. FanDuel.com. You'll get started, like I said, with $150 on your first $5 bet. And if that $5 bet cashes, you'll get those $150. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment count with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. All right, Nico Iamaleava. We wondered what would happen. We wondered what his injury was. We were concerned really ever since halftime of last week's game. Hey, what's the deal here? Is he going to come back? Is he going to be around for the Georgia game? The answer is probably, but not definitely. Pete Thamel reported today that he is in concussion protocol. Might be available for the Georgia game, might not. Here's the thing. If it's Gaston Moore, they could still be okay. Because what do we know about Tennessee? They run the ball, they play defense. What do we know about Georgia? They don't run the ball, and they have a quarterback who's all over the place as a result, and they don't have any wide receivers. So look, I love Nico Iamaleava. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to have a long career, but in no way, shape, or form has Nico Iamaleava been the centerpiece of this Tennessee offense. In no way. It's been Dylan Sampson. If somebody named Ashton Genty didn't live on this world, Dylan Sampson would be in the Heisman Trophy race. He probably still should be, based on some of the things that have happened throughout the course of the season. But Nico is only one piece of the puzzle, and I would argue he's way down on that list. Third at best, but even beyond that, maybe. Because we've seen him have bad halves, bad quarters, bad games before. Oklahoma is a perfect example. Nico didn't play very well. They were still fine. They were fine last week. I think he can be a superstar. He has not been a superstar this year. The real stars of the game this weekend, the unit that has to play lights out, is the Tennessee defense. Because we saw what happens when Carson Beck gets rattled. We saw it last week, but it was not a one-off. It's pretty much every game since mid-September. Carson Beck has been all over the place. So, can Tennessee, do they have the dogs to cover a below-average wide receiving core for Georgia? Yes. Do they have the dudes that can shut down its rushing attack? Yes. The rushing attack has been bad all year, too. Now, Ole Miss had its success off the edge. Well, it had success everywhere. But poor Carson Beck, when they teed off on him, when they knew they had that game in hand, I actually felt bad for that guy. Tennessee has some dude, I don't know if you've heard of him, James Pierce? Oh, yeah, James Pierce, who's going to be a first-round draft pick. Uh-oh. It's like on Happy Gilmore. Happy learned how to putt. Uh-oh. That's where Georgia is right now. So, look, I love Nico. I wish he was. I hope he plays. I hope he feels better. I hope he doesn't have any lingering symptoms from a concussion. As a guy who's had 4 of them, I know they can be brutal, and he doesn't need to be out there if there's any risk of him getting not just a concussion, but just prolonging the symptoms. But to me, it doesn't really matter all that much, which is crazy to think that a 5-star quarterback against a team on the playoff bubble late in the season, that his absence wouldn't matter all that much. But it doesn't. They can win running the ball and playing defense. Firmly believe that. Tennessee's a much better team than Georgia. That'll do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Hey, thank you for making this your first listen. For your second listen, go check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. Does a great job over there. We also have a bunch of conference channels. They do a great job with those as well. Join the subtext group. You can hit the links below, whether you're watching or listening. Right there, you can text me personally. If you get mad at me, you think I'm dumb, you can text me. I'll text you back and say, you know what, I am. Or you know what, you're dumb. Come at me, bro. So join that subtext there as well. Have a great day. We'll come back tomorrow on the Wednesday edition of College Football Smothered and Covered.